It was the summer of 2017. I was driving down the road. My windows were down, music blaring, my hair blowing in the wind, when out of the corner of my eye, I saw a tattoo shop. With clear direction and zero hesitation, I slammed on the brake, made a hard right, probably a very dangerous one, but nonetheless, I pulled into a spot right in front of the shop. And I sat there quietly. I knew I had to commemorate the choice I had just made. A choice that would change my life. So I got out of the car, I went into the shop, and there was this lovely woman who greeted me behind the counter. I said in a bit of a frantic pace, "I want 3 birds taking flight. Do you have any options?" Her eyes widened. She looked a little curious, maybe thought I was a little nuts, and started to lay out the options in front of me. I chose the very first option she put on the counter. "This one, can you do it now?" Again, wide-eyed. She nodded, probably thought I was a little crazy, but said, "Come on back." So I sat down, she prepared the stencil, and away we went. 20 minutes later, I came out with 3 little birds taking flight. I could tell while I was paying for the tattoo that she was curious as to why the heck the urgency and why 3 birds. You guys are probably a little curious too, so I offered the story. I told her that that day I had made the decision, the active choice, to leave a very loveless, abusive, controlling marriage. That day I decided to take the cage that was set on top of me and remove it so that I could take flight. I chose to show my kids that you never have to stay somewhere that isn't right for you. No other words were spoken. She came around the counter, gave me a hug, as us ladies do, smiled at me, and I walked back in my car and went to my doctor's appointment. That night, I wrote my freedom plan. I manifested the heck out of my future. Now, looking back at this time, I think, I was so scared of what I had to do, the actions I needed to take, all the hard work that was going to come. The reality, though, was that I was more fearful of actually making a decision and making a choice than I was of the work that had to come. I thought I had to climb Mount Everest. So I stayed stuck for like 15 years on that proverbial hamster wheel, hoping that something would change. But nothing ever did until I decided. Choice is a fact of life. You are faced with thousands of decisions every single day. Most we do on autopilot. Brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, washing your face, getting in the shower, all on autopilot. But then there's these decisions you have to make that you have to actively be a part of. How do you move through those choices, through fear, to find the courage to take a risk and believe that you'll come out the other side? That's an entirely different fact of life. I had hard choices I had to make growing up. Choices most kids I would never wish upon. Both my parents were addicts, very absent. I was a mother, a sister, a chef, a tutor, a caregiver from a very young age. And most nights I'd be sitting at home with my brother and sister. I'd make dinner. We'd be sitting at the kitchen table, either finishing homework or just having finished our meal. And I'd hear the key searching for the lock on the door. I'd stand up a little straighter, my hairs would stand on end. I'd look at my brother and sister. I knew by just how smooth that key went in that door lock, or how hard they had to find its way, what we were in for that night. If it went in super smoothly, I was like, we're actually gonna have a family night tonight. We might sit and watch a movie and everything's gonna be okay. The more frustrated they were trying to get that key through the door, told me just how drunk they were and what we'd be in for. And every night, I'd wait up. See, my dad had this nasty habit. He'd hunker down in the garage on a lawn chair, not even a good one, a pull-out lawn chair, Crown and Coke in one hand, Colt in the other. He would drink till he passed out every single night. Now, call me crazy. I didn't want us to burn while we slept. So everyone else went to bed, and I waited up. I'd take that cigar, put it out so he wouldn't burn, put his drink down. Some nights he let me help him get to bed. Other nights he slept in the garage on his lawn chair. But around midnight, most nights, I would crawl into my own bed, close my eyes, and escape the anxiety that ensued that day. The next morning, though, I had two choices. Do I get up, resent the world, lean on all the excuses I so rightfully had, be angry at my parents, and essentially stay stuck? Or do I see the light? Do I choose to serve my family? Do I choose to continue to protect my brother and sister? I was faced with that choice every single morning, from the age of about 11 to the age of about 19 when I was kicked out of the house. Now, I'm not saying I was perfect at it, because there are more days there I didn't go to school or I didn't want to show up. But most days, I did. Choices are a fact of life. And change is the only constant thing in life. Heraclitus, Greek philosopher, says that so. That change is the only constant thing in life. And while I agree with that, I also believe that the choices that come with that change are also constant. You are always going to be faced with a do I or don't I moment, a set of opportunities or a set of obstacles. It really just depends on how you see it. Yes, I know all of us can and have been victims at some point in our life. There are circumstances that are thrown your way. Maybe you're dealt a bad hand of cards that you had absolutely nothing to do with. But in that moment of change, you are faced with a choice. And that choice, that power, it sits with you. And so I was asked the question, well, how, Katie? How did you get through this? How did you find the courage? As a young kid in your marriage, how did you continue to make the right choices? And if I'm going to be completely honest, I had no idea. I mean, I did it right, so I should know. Not so much. So I went back and I looked at all my obstacles and I pulled it all apart. And I came up with 2 or 3 realizations. The first is you must recognize the fact that you play a part in the game called life. You play a part in the outcomes that you face, and no one else gets to dictate that except for you. It is truly freeing when you realize the power you hold in the future you have. You no longer have a cage sitting on top of you because you get to decide where you're going. John Maxwell says that people change when they hurt enough they have to, when they learn enough they want to, or when they're given the tools or the resources so they are able to. The second thing I realized is that we put ourselves on this tiny little roller coaster, a little battle between yourself and yourself. It's a little war called the choice cycle. The choice cycle is very, very similar to something called the abuse cycle. Have we heard of that out there? Yeah? The abuse cycle is a war that you go through, but someone else is inflicting that pain. The choice cycle is a war you put yourself through, and you have complete control over how much it destroys you or it doesn't. Who here makes New Year's resolutions? Anybody? Show of hands. Really? Only like half the group? Yeah? Okay. We all do. Let's take weight loss as an example. We've all wanted to lose 5 or 10 pounds, right? It's one point in our life. The tension. We look in the mirror, we don't like what we see. Maybe we put on our jeans and they fit a little too tight and we don't like how it feels. Maybe you're starting to feel little aches and pains in your knees and you're starting to feel what not going to the gym is doing to your body. Then there's an incident. So either something happens and it hurts enough that you have to change, so your health, God forbid something happens and you have a health scare. So you're forced into action, right? Or maybe you see something online that's inspirational, so you are wanting to change. You learn something new. And maybe you're given the resources and the tools you've never had before so you can change. But either way, whatever provokes you to moving, you're inevitably going to be faced with a choice. Now, that choice puts you at a crossroads. Are you looking at a set of obstacles? Or are you looking at a set of opportunities? And that choice is yours. Now, most of us are going to hope that this takes care of itself. I'll go to the gym for a few days, maybe 3 weeks into the new year, and I'm going to feel good about it, and then maybe I'll lose a pound or two. And then life will take over, and I'll just ping-pong my way back through this choice cycle. And I'm going to feel the tension. Another incident's going to come up, and I'm going to be faced with another choice. Or you could choose to do the hard work, continue to be consistent, make a series of great choices, and you can reap the rewards of the benefit, the calm after the storm you create in your mind. Now, the only person saving you or coming to save you and rescue you from this cycle is you. There's no one else. And I know right now, each and every one of you are thinking of something that's going on in your life that you're thinking, oh, if only I had, or shoot, maybe I should have. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You get to choose that. Every obstacle life throws you gives you a set of obstacles or a set of opportunities, and it is up to you to decide what those are. Nobody can change your perspective, only you can. Let me tell you a tale of two brothers. They're about 5 years apart. They grew up in a very neglectful home, very similar to mine. The older brother, smart, handsome, even was told he looked like Leonardo DiCaprio. When I say he was handsome, he was handsome. He had all the makings to be something incredible, way more than what his parents served up for him. Well, he decided that his worth was less. He followed dark instead of light, and just shy of his 39th birthday, he was found dead in his apartment. Now his younger brother, completely different path in life. A series of choices took these two brothers down a completely different path. His younger brother is married, has children, has a career. He supports his very sick father and supported his brother. Even paid for the apartment that he found him passed away in. A series of choices. Each and every one of you has a series of choices. I had a series of choices growing up in life. I could have landed very easily on either path. But I chose to recognize that I, in fact, had the power to be something different. I had the power to have a different outcome. I was not a victim. And when it seems too tough to do it for yourself, when you are down and out and it's dark and gray and you're laying in bed and your anxiety is through the roof, or you really are too tired to go to the gym, or whatever excuse it is that we give to ourselves, because that's what they are, they're excuses and choices, but we're rationalizing our choice to excuse our inability or our choice not to move forward. I urge you to do it for someone else. If you take nothing else from this talk today, this would be the piece that I'd want you to take away with you. Because your actions, the risks you take, the light you shine, is often the answer to someone else's prayers, often the answer to someone else's dreams. When you find the courage to believe that a new attempt can result in a new outcome, and you can't find that courage for yourself, do it for someone else. I did it for my brother and sister, and when they watch this, it'll be the first time they hear my perspective on our childhood. They didn't know that I took that cigar out of my dad's hand so we wouldn't burn down. I protected them so they could smile more. I did it for my kids because I swore to myself I would not teach them that that was what love was. And so I did it so they could prosper and really know what a loving relationship is. And although I have been knocked down more times than I would like to admit, I'm standing on the stage not because I'm any more talented than anybody else in this room or really anyone out there, but because I persisted and I knew I had a message I needed to share so that each person that heard it could be inspired and see a light, so that you can feel the power that you have and act on it, because that choice is yours. And so when you leave this room, you have two choices. You're going to leave this conference today and you've been inspired and heard some amazing messages, but you're going to have two choices. You can whisper to the person beside you, maybe to your colleagues, and be like, what the heck does that girl even know? Or what are those speakers? Come on. And go about your day. Go about your life. Put yourself back through that choice cycle. Or you can recognize that you play a part in the outcome of your life. And you can choose and decide how you're going to show up when you're put up against your next set of obstacles. Are you going to rationalize your behavior and catapult yourself back through that choice cycle? Or when you're down and out, are you going to muster up enough courage to believe that a new attempt will result in a new outcome? That choice is yours. Thank you.